We could do the hand clapping game that you always try to teach me and I always do it wrong and you end up screaming at me.
Oh my god, okay.
Okay,
ready?
Boom.
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 1, 2, 1.
Hi. Welcome back to our YouTube channel.
Welcome back.
This is our second video of the year, so we're glad you're here. And today, Kathy is going to be telling me a crazy story. We always say that.
And it's always crazy.
But I feel like it is going to be, and I'm excited to hear it. So, here we go.
Here we go. Okay. Me and Celeste never tell each other what we're going to talk about until the day of, and so it's been so hard for me to keep my mouth shut about this. I'm so excited to talk about this today. Okay. Today I'm going to be covering the Alaskan Triangle.
Alaskan? Bermuda Triangle?
Well, so it's called the Alaskan Triangle, and sometimes people call it the Alaskan Bermuda Triangle.
Okay. I've never heard of this. Okay.
Neither did I until I found it.
Tell me all about it.
Okay. So this is a map of where it's located. Here's Alaska, and it starts in Anchorage, goes up to Barrow, and then down to Juneau. And it's like that. Juneau. Is it Juneau or Juneau?
Juneau.
Oh.
I think it's Juneau.
Okay, we're gonna go with Juneau. Alaska, it's huge, right? It has all these vast snowy mountains. It has a wide range of wildlife. Alaska has over 57 million acres of designated wilderness areas. And Alaska's infrastructure and civilization, they're pretty isolated because it's a bunch of little towns, pretty far apart from each other. So that's part of the reason why there's so much wildlife all around. And most of the Alaskan Triangle is made up of wilderness with glaciers and crevices. And they have huge lakes with really strong currents and remote towns linked by rough roads through steep mountain passes. So in short, Alaska is just like nature. Like it's all nature, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I want to go.
Yeah. So since 1988, a total of 16,000 people have gone missing from Alaska.
How many?
16,000. Yeah. Statistically, Alaska has more annual missing persons reported than any other state in the country.
Whoa.
And it's like twice the national average.
Holy cow.
Alaska state troopers have led more than 450 search and rescue operations per year in the state, with more than 1,100 trained volunteers to assist in searching 665,400 square miles. That's a lot of land, you know?
Yeah.
To put it into perspective, if every volunteer participated in that search, they'd each have to go search 604 square miles to cover all of it. That kind of gives you an idea of how big it is. It's huge.
Holy cow.
And because Alaska has a lot of indigenous communities responsible for their own policing, it's kind of hard to find what story made the whole Alaska Bermuda Triangle a thing, you know what I mean? But the name was first dubbed in 1972. And the earliest case to receive a lot of national media attention was this of a small charter plane, and it was carrying Majority Leader Hale Boggs of Louisiana, and this is him.
Oh, wow. So not that long ago?
No, this was in 1972. And then it was also carrying Alaska Representative Nicholas Begich, and this is him. And then it had the aide and a pilot, and this was on October 16th, 1972. Their twin-engine Cessna 310 was going from Anchorage to Juneau, but it never made it to Anchorage. There was no Mayday call, there was no alert, nothing. They didn't say that anything was wrong, they just never showed up.
Whoa.
Yeah. And one of the largest search and rescue efforts in U.S. history was made looking for them, with 40 military aircraft and 50 civilian planes who searched a grid of 325,000 square miles. And the whole search lasted 39 days. And there was never any wreckage found. The bodies were never found. Not a single clue.
What?
Yeah, nothing was ever found. And so eventually the men were pronounced dead.
What the hell?
I know. And there were a lot of theories about what happened to the men. There were some conspiracy theories about the FBI killing them, you know?
Yeah.
Or poor weather. But ultimately, nobody knows because there was never any evidence found. So the men were just pronounced dead and that was it.
Wow. Whoa. That's wild.
I know.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. I just don't understand how a whole plane goes missing.
Yeah.
And with that many military aircrafts and then like civilian aircrafts, I just don't understand how you wouldn't find one clue, one piece of the plane or anything, you know?
Yeah.
It's absolutely mind-boggling.
That's so creepy.
I know. The next story that I'm going to cover is of Richard Lyman Griffiths.
Oh.
And he was from Spokane, Washington. And he invented this wilderness survival cocoon. And this was in 2006. He headed to Alaska with his invention and because he wanted to test it out. And he told his friends and family that he was going to be gone for a while, like the whole winter. So nobody reported him for an entire year because they were like, oh, this crazy boy, he's out in nature, you know?
Oh, no.
Yeah. But once authorities started looking into his disappearance, once he was actually reported missing, they found out that this bus dropped him off on the side of the highway with his hiking gear, and he was planning to hike up to McCarthy, which is a small town in the Wrangell St. Elias National Park, and so that's where he was headed to. But yeah, nobody ever found him. Nobody ever found his orange cocoon or anything. He was just gone, like no trace.
What?
Yeah. And then the next story that I'm going to cover is of Naomi Uemura. And he was born February 12th, 1941. And he was this famous Japanese adventurer and mountain climber. And he was particularly known for his solo exploits. A lot of the times when mountain climbers go out in nature, they'll usually take some buddies with them, you know, for safety and stuff. He was known for going by himself, like loved to explore by himself. He was actually the first person to reach the North Pole solo.
Whoa.
And the first person to raft the Amazon solo. And this is a picture of him.
Oh, wow. He looks so familiar. That's awesome.
On February 13th, 1984, he was also the very first person to climb Mount Denali in Alaska by himself. And that's the highest mountain peak in North America. And during his climb, there were high winds and it was like negative 50 degrees. It was cold, it was windy, it was intense. And he made it to the top, but something happened on his way back down and he was never seen again. And same thing with him, there was no trace ever found of him. Like none of his equipment, clothing, nothing.
What? That's so weird. So the disappearances started happening in the 70s?
It's hard to say. They very well could have started like way before that, but there's just no record of it. So I covered just a small handful of the missing persons cases from Alaska. There have been way too many and there shouldn't be, and I can't imagine what it would be like to like have a loved one missing, you know?
Yeah, that's so sad.
Yeah. So there are a lot of theories about why people go missing in Alaska, and I'm going to cover a few now. And if there are any that I don't cover that you know about, please share it with us because I genuinely want to know. Just like share it in the comments. The first one that I'm going to cover is the Kushtaka. This is a picture of it.
What the Oh.
So according to folklore from Alaska's native Tlingit people, some of the disappearances are caused by the Kushtaka. And these creatures are shapeshifters that primarily take the shape of a large otter, but they can also shapeshift into the form of a human, especially loved ones of the one that they're trying to lure. The legend says that they lure people to their deaths and they can emulate screams or cries of babies and women and even lure sailors off of their course to die of either like exposure or drowning.
That is so creepy.
I know.
Are you kidding me right now?
They would lure people underwater and take them to their home where they would somehow be turned to Kushtaka themselves.
Oh,
just so creepy.
That makes sense. That reminds me of something else.
The Shape of Water?
No, from our own, where we lived for a while. There was something else that was similar to that creature that you're not supposed to talk about.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. They would take away a person's ability to be reincarnated, so that's part of the reason why people like feared them so much.
Oh.
Interestingly enough, though, there are also a lot of stories of the Kushtaka being kind and helping lost people find their way back to civilization and stuff. It's said that Kushtakas are closely linked to shamans, and that if a person could make it out alive after an encounter with a Kushtaka, that they would become like Prime Cam did it to like become a shaman. So that's kind of interesting. Kushtakas are scared of dogs, and their barks will force Kushtakas to like show their true form. They're also scared of fire, so you can have a fire and that could protect you. And they're also scared of urine and copper.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That is so creepy.
I know.
Imagine being out in Alaska in the wilderness and your dog, and you know about the Kushtaka.
Yeah.
And your dog starts barking and barking like out.
Oh my god.
At the wilderness, and you're just like,
I know why.
I know why.
Can you imagine Spinky and Alfie going against a Kushtaka?
Oh my god. Alfie specifically would really put his whole ASS into it.
Yeah, he really would.
Into protecting us.
And Spinky would be like, is that my friend? So another alien, or another Alaska Triangle theory that always makes sense to me is aliens.
Okay. I was waiting for that one.
You were waiting for that one? Get ready for this, okay? Since 1988, there have been more than 560 reported UFO sightings in Alaska, and most of them have been reported within the Alaskan Triangle area.
Okay.
Some people believe that there is a huge alien base under Alaska, and that it explains all of this UFO activity.
What?
Yeah.
An alien base? Like, they live underground? What?
Yeah. In this book called Remote Viewers, written in 1977 by Jim Schnabel, he talks about the UN's intelligence and their involvement with psychic spying that allegedly really took off in the 1970s. I don't know. And I didn't make a segue from that to this, but in the book he talks about Pat Price, who believes that there's one of the largest bases of aliens under Mount Hayes, which is located in Anchorage, Alaska. I don't know where he's getting all of this from, but according to Pat, these aliens are hot.
They're like
like, he doesn't...
attractive.
Attractive, yeah.
Okay.
They differ only in their heart, blood, eyes, and lungs.
Heart.
Which, like, that's easy for me to picture because I've pictured hot aliens before.
Heart,
A
blood,
lot.
eyes, and lungs?
Heart, blood, eyes, and lungs.
Okay. Huh.
So I don't know what kind of eyes they have. Probably, like, hot alien eyes. I don't know.
Maybe, like, pink or purple.
Yeah. He
I
says,
guess we're moving to Alaska.
I guess we're going to Alaska. Maybe that's where I'll find a man. But no, Pat also states that these hot aliens use thought transfer to control humans and their motor skills.
Maybe not then.
So maybe not. Pat says the site has also been responsible for strange activity and malfunction of US and Soviet space objects. Interesting. An article from the Anchorage Daily News written by a local historian named David Reamer talks about this peculiar night. So on July 9th, 1947, there were 3 teenage girls from Anchorage, and they were named Judy Kerr, Vicky Novak, and Nancy Green. And they claimed to see an unusual white disc-shaped object above Elmendorf Air Force Base, where it streaked across the sky and then disappeared to the south. And the girls said that this thing was traveling at a great speed and was moving faster than ordinary planes. These girls also said that it was like smaller than any fighter plane, and it wasn't like a weather balloon or anything like that, which they were familiar with because their dads, they were all servicemen, and the girls would just sit there. They passed the time watching like base flight operations, so they were familiar with airplanes and stuff, you know?
That says a lot.
Yeah. And this was the first documented UFO sighting in Anchorage, which was followed by like many more.
Wow. That was the first?
Yeah, the first
reported.
Documented one, yeah.
Wow.
In November 1986, flight 1628 from Japan Airlines was flying from Iceland to Anchorage. And the pilot, Captain Kenju Terauchi, he reported an unexplainable aircraft over Anchorage. And according to this report, the craft accompanied the flight from the Alaskan-Canadian border on the north along a flight plan which flows approximately from Fort Yukon, Alaska to Fairbanks to Anchorage. That's like 467 miles. So he basically said that whatever this unidentified object was followed them for 467 miles.
Ooh.
So that happened, right?
Yeah.
And the Federal Aviation Administration, they downplayed the whole incident. In the article, Why Do So Many People Go Missing in the Alaskan Triangle by Susie Dundas, she actually links the original report, the government report from this 1997 case, courtesy of the Black Vault, which I've mentioned before in the Betty and Barney video. This site was created by John Greenwald Jr., and he takes millions of pages released by the government and military about like extraterrestrial activity. Same guy, same website.
Wow.
I read the report and it was absolutely bonkers, but I just wanted to share with you guys the last page. And I'll link it below too if you want to read the article and the report as well. But it says here, The Federal Aviation Administration has a number of employees who do scientific research with regard to aircraft, aviation, and related electronic equipment. The FAA does not have the resources or the congressional mandate to investigate sightings of unidentified flying objects. We have not tried to determine what the crew of Japan Airlines Flight 1628 saw based on scientific analysis of the stars, planets, magnetic fields, angle of view, etc. We have received letters from several persons suggesting that we ask the crew and others a variety of detailed questions from a scientific viewpoint. This we have not done and do not intend to do. We reviewed the data that was created by our systems, the interviews that were done by FAA to determine the status of the crew and the aircraft, and have provided that information to the public. The FAA has completed its investigation of JAL Flight 1628 and does not intend to pursue it any further. We were asked multiple times to research this, but we're not going to, and we're going to close the investigation.
What are my taxes going to if not towards research about this flight?
And you know what's crazy? On January 11th, 1987, Captain Tarachi also reported another sighting in the same area. But yeah, then there's another theory. This one is the serial killer theory. During 2005, there were a high number of disappearances in Nome, Alaska. And it was both locals and tourists that were going missing. So much to the point where the locals started talking about, oh my god, why are so many people going missing? It's a small town. I googled it and the population was 3,000 or something. It's a small town. But enough people were going missing to the point where the locals were like, what is happening? And so they were like, is it a serial killer? And eventually people were like, it's a serial killer. And so the FBI got involved and they came and they did an investigation. But nothing was ever found. They didn't find anything with this investigation. And so they chalked it up to the fact that the city of Nome likes to drink.
What?
Yeah. Alaska, it's known to have one of the highest ratios of alcohol-free municipalities in America. So they don't really have a lot of alcohol. They don't really drink. But Nome has a couple of bars and a liquor store. And so it attracted a lot of people that did want to drink. And so the FBI was like, no, there's not a serial killer. It's because you guys like to drink. It's because people got drunk and stumbled out into the night and then they got attacked by a bear, or they were like susceptible to the environment, or you know, whatever else can go wrong when you're drunk in the cold. Okay. So they were like, that's what it is.
Okay, FBI. That's so annoying.
I know.
Can I just say?
I know, that's
that
so
is
annoying.
So annoying.
It's like, just say that you couldn't find the person and move on, you know?
Yeah, don't blame it on people getting drunk. People do stupid at a crap, you know, when they're drunk.
They do.
I'll be the first to admit that.
Yeah, I'll be the second to admit that.
But never once have I been to the point of drunkenness where I'm like, you know what sounds like a good idea? Wandering into the cold winter night into the forest.
Yeah.
And just like not telling anyone, not bringing my phone.
Yeah.
Not leaving any kind of paper trail or telling anyone where I'm going. I just feel like that is so unlikely for that many people to do the exact same thing. Go out into the wilderness and not leave any evidence at all. If I was gonna do some stupid thing like that, I feel like I'd already be at the point where I'm drunk calling my ex, leaving voicemails and being like, I'm so drunk. I love you. And I'm gonna walk in the woods and tell the snow fairies that I love you. You know, like, come on.
Yeah. And I feel like that is very plausible because drunk people do dumb things, but that many tourists and locals, like,
come on.
I don't think so. And the next theory is the Kalupalik. So indigenous people in the Arctic have a legend about the Kalupalik. And this is an Inuit legend, so it's not native to Alaska, but like people in Alaska do talk about it. So the Kalupalik is a green-skinned mermaid-like creature. Oh. And she has long claws and creepy, vicious teeth. She has human legs and she has a tail to help her steer through the waters, which is, like, it's so creepy. And it's said that they have scaly, bumpy skin with fins coming out of their head and backs and torsos, that their hands are webbed and they have claws so that it can make it easier for them to hunt.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah. The Kalupalik are also rumored to smell like sulfur and wear eider duck clothing. And the most haunting thing is what they carry, an amotik. An amotik, they're commonly worn by Inuit women to secure their babies to their back. So like those little baby holders. They carry those. The Kalupalik do. Which is so creepy. They carry them so they can snatch small Inuit children. And can you guess what their favorite food is? Small children.
Oh, okay.
The Kalupalik was an old legend told by like Inuit mothers to warn their children about playing near the coast of the sea. However, there have been sightings of the Kalupalik far from its Canadian base and off of the Alaskan coast as well. So people have seen it. And one of the warning signs if they're near is you'll hear humming. And the humming is meant to entice children to make them curious and come towards the shore, which is so creepy.
That is the creepiest I've ever heard.
I know. And you don't have to be by the shore for it to come either. They'll knock under the ice to draw the child to like a weak part or the hole in the ice to steal them away. So you don't even have to be by the water.
Oh, no.
And some say that they eat the children, but others say that they take them away to a cave and put them under a sleeping spell, and that they feed on the young, innocent energy so that they can remain immortal.
Oh, that is so creepy.
Isn't that so creepy? A lot of people say that the origin of this was to make it so that it was made for parents to keep their children safe from playing by the sea. But yeah, scary nonetheless. You know?
Yeah. Maybe that's the origin, but it's like, what if it's true?
Yeah.
I constantly find myself doubting mythological history, I guess. You know, like the Loch Ness Monster or things like that. Like, I constantly find myself being like, But I feel like it's so much different when it's a story that comes directly from indigenous people and indigenous, like, cultures. Because it's just, like, that has existed longer than my entire existence and the existences before me, you know? So it's like, how can you doubt that or question that?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a really good point. Yeah.
It's so creepy.
It's eerie to think about, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the next thing that seems the most obvious, like theories of why people go missing, would be nature. Okay. This is a quote from Shaden Laurie, who's a perfectionist. She's a perfectionist. She's a professional wilderness guide in Wrangell St. Elias National Park, which is in Alaska. She says, people tend to underestimate how wild Alaska is. The scale is difficult to wrap their heads around. Everything is so massive, and the vast majority of the state is still untouched by human infrastructure. And it's true.
That is true.
Yeah. 26% of Alaska is wild. And initially, that doesn't sound like much, but considering Alaska's size, that 26% represents 54% of all America's wild land.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of wild land.
I mean, yeah.
The size of the state alone could explain a lot of these decade-long disappearances that might have been solved within a few days if it was any other state that it happened in, you know?
Wow.
She says, when people go missing, it can be very difficult to find them quickly. A typical search and rescue operation in the lower 48 states has less terrain to search, with more manpower to search it. And on top of that, the hazards in Alaska make it a very hostile environment to be injured or lost in, and the weather can easily put search efforts on hold for days, since they rely so heavily on aircraft to access these remote areas. And death from exposure could explain a lot of the missing persons in the Alaskan Triangle, especially missing hikers that go to like the backcountry areas without cell service or resources nearby. And like even a small mistake could be deadly, you know, like having a wet sleeping bag or getting a sprained ankle. People underestimate how hard it is to be in such an area that's so cold without resources close at all, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. She says people really tend to underestimate the power of water and can easily get swept away, and even a couple of feet of a swiftly moving current or quickly become hypothermic and drown. A lot of people chalk up the Alaskan Triangle disappearances to nature because it's just so huge, like it's so vast, you know? Definitely, I understand that.
What's weird about that though is that I just don't see wild animals eating a plane. You know what I mean?
I do see like an avalanche going and covering up a whole plane though.
Yeah.
That does make sense to me.
But then it's like, if you consider that, then it's, say if an avalanche happened and it covered the entire plane and the person in it, there's a certain distance from here to here where this person could have crashed and landed. And people probably searched in those areas to see.
Yeah.
And they do have those avalanche tests, like we talked about in the Dyatlov Pass story.
Oh, yeah.
They have the avalanche like testing where they like stick that thing down and see if they can pull anything up.
Yeah.
I'm sure they probably did that.
Yeah.
So it's true. Like, where did the whole plane go? It's like usually they can at least recover clothing or, you know, like something.
Yeah.
But like for a whole plane to go missing, I could see it where like that guy went out in nature to like test his invention, his cocoon. I could see him completely disappearing because of natural,
like nature and
nature,
stuff.
You know. But like a whole plane, it's harder to explain.
I forgot about that, like how you can test the avalanches for stuff under it, like
which you guys should check out that video.
It's such a good video. It's like
it's kind of similar to this in a way. In a way. Yeah. It's like, what is it?
I know. You know, as I researched the Alaskan Triangle, my mind was racing with so many what ifs. I was like, is it aliens? Is it nature? Is there something paranormal, like truly paranormal that's happening here? Or is it just nature? I was like, you know,
freaking out.
Yeah. And the more that I did my research, the more I went down into that rabbit hole, I found out a lot of things. But I learned about something that is not refutable, and that needs a lot more attention. So, trigger warning, I'm going to be talking about violence against women.
Oh, okay.
So, if you want to skip forward, I'm going to do the timestamps at the bottom so you can still finish the video with us without being like potentially triggered. So, for decades, Alaskan indigenous communities have struggled with high rates of assault, abduction, and murder of women. Community advocates describe the crisis as a legacy of generations of government policies of forced removal, land seizures, and violence inflicted on Native peoples. When looking at missing and murdered cases, data shows that Native American and Alaskan Native women make up a significant portion of missing and murdered individuals. And reports indicate that there is no reliable count of how many Native women go missing or are killed each year. For an example, in 2016, there were 5,712 reports of missing Indigenous and Alaska Native women and girls through the U.S. Department of Justice Federal Missing Persons Database. But the National Information Clearinghouse of the United States only logged 116 of those cases. And a lot of these investigations remain unsolved, often due to like lack of resources. And despite the reports of rampant domestic abuse and violence against women in these villages, most of the places without police receive no funding because they are considered too small or too remote to employ local police. So there's like all these little towns where they literally don't have cops. So if somebody goes missing, if something happens, they don't have somebody to call. Yeah. And they have, I forgot the word, but it's like unofficial cops basically, but they're not allowed to carry guns or anything. So they can't really do anything. And Alaska, they also lack a unified 911 system, making access to police even harder in rural areas. It's intense. They need more support. But there is, however, a lot of people doing great work to help protect Indigenous women in Alaska. And one of those groups is the Alaska Native Women's Resource Center. And they're doing a lot of good work with community organizing to create like alert systems for when somebody goes missing. They give you like resources. They have a lot of resources.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
we should link that.
Yeah. I was gonna say we're gonna link their PayPal below so you can donate if you have the means. I was thinking that when our videos begin to be monetized, we could donate 50% of the proceeds of this video to the Alaska Native Women's Resource Center.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to leave you with this incredible local Indigenous artist. Her name is Crystal Worrell, and she is Tlingit Athabaskan from Raven Moiety, Sockeye Clan from the Raven House. She is Dagitan Athabaskan from Fairbanks, Alaska, and her work explores the relationships and bond between her people, the land, and the animals, and she did these incredible murals, and here are some pictures.
Wow, that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. This is her in front of the mural. And this mural...
That is stunning.
Yeah. This mural is actually of Elizabeth Peratrovich, who was an American civil rights activist. Mm-hmm. She was a member of the Tlingit Nation who worked for equality on behalf of Alaska Natives.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
I know. And then these are some of my favorite paintings of Crystal.
Oh. What an amazing artist.
I know. I think this one's my favorite.
That's beautiful.
Oh, that one is so
gorgeous.
Huh?
Gorgeous.
Yeah, Crystal has several public art installations in Alaska. She's a co-owner and co-designer of Trickster Company with her brother Rico. So we'll be linking her website in the show notes, and where you can get a ton of stuff. Like, she has art prints, jewelry, they have skateboards. It's super cool. They have a ton of stuff like jewelry. Wow. We'll also link her Instagram below so you can keep up with her. So yeah, I wanted to end it on a positive note because there are a ton of ways that we can support the indigenous community in Alaska. So yeah, that is the story of the Alaskan Triangle.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna do our makeup and then we'll be back.
That was beautiful.
In time with the drip from my sink, and she drags her finger to follow my spine. She gets lost on her way, and I'm losing my mind.
Okay, we're back. Thank you so much for joining us and being here, and I hope you liked this story.
You did a great job telling it.
Thank you.
What a wild one.
Yeah, really though. And if you love us, you should subscribe if you haven't already. You should like it, love it, share with your mom, and come back for next time because Celeste is going to do a wonderful story next time. Bye.
Thank you for being here. Have a good day.
Bye.
If you ever